From super popular chains to upscale eateries to 19th century traditionalists, these are the steakhouses that have heard loud and clear customers' demands that their meat remains out of the freezer. The Australian-themed Outback Steakhouse doesn't actually hail from down under, as it instead originated in Tampa, Florida in 1988. It's now America's most widespread steakhouse chain, with nearly 700 locations nationwide. One of the things that makes Outback so successful is its commitment to never freezing its steak. Outback uses USDA choice beef, which is a step down from the USDA prime you're likely to see at higher-end steakhouses. That's clear enough in their generally more affordable price points. This doesn't mean that your taste buds will be disappointed, though. Simply put, Outback prides itself on serving its meat with a side of customer satisfaction as they go the extra mile to keep its steaks out of the freezer's cold, hard grip. Peter Luger Steakhouse was established in 1887 in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, New York. The beer hall decor has never changed, and new menu items drop only once every few decades. Some may call this steakhouse iconic, while others might consider it a tourist trap, but nobody can accuse Peter Luger of freezing its steak. On-site aging is one of this establishment's well-worn traditions. The refrigerated dry-age room in the Brooklyn location's basement is a maze of fresh USDA prime beef that undergoes a month-long process before being expertly trimmed. Up in the kitchen, the steaks are salted and cooked in broilers that reach over 800 degrees. They're traditionally cooked medium rare, sliced and served sizzling atop a puddle of clarified butter. Despite the craft on display, not everyone thinks it's worth it. In 2019, an infamous zero-star review in the New York Times blew the doors off of Peter Luger's elite reputation. However, Peter Luger stands by the way it does steak, and time is on its side.
I'm not going to stop eating here because some guy in the Times doesn't like it.
LongHorn Steakhouse's prices are reasonable. The menu has variety, and there are more than 550 locations across the U.S. And this chain isn't popular just because it's so ubiquitous, as they also understand the importance of utilizing fresh steak. According to LongHorn's executive chef and vice president of culinary development, when restaurants are tempted to cut expenses and opt for frozen steak, it ends up costing them more in the long run. Frozen steaks are vulnerable to freezer burn, and they might not be thawed correctly, which can make cooking more challenging. Customers are likely to send their food back to the kitchen if it isn't cooked the way that they ordered it, which isn't exactly a cost-effective strategy. Fortunately, LongHorn knows that tender, never frozen steak makes for happy customers and happy restaurant owners. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has consistently remained one of the most successful chains in the steak game. They start by taking fresh cuts and placing them in vacuum-sealed bags that are stored in a controlled, low-temperature environment. This process is known as wet aging, and it's a more time-efficient tenderizing method than dry aging. However, it's not exactly quick, as Ruth's Chris ages its steaks for 4 weeks. As far as cooking goes, Ruth's Chris is more innovative than most. They use infrared broilers that reach temperatures of 1800 degrees Fahrenheit and serve them to guests on a 500-degree plate accented with sizzling butter. This restaurant's roots go back to New Orleans, where the original restaurant, then called Chris's Steakhouse, was founded. Ruth Fertel purchased it in 1965, and she's responsible for making the steakhouse what it is today, with a winning combination of ingenuity and delicious, never-frozen steak.
Oh no, Romeo's dead! Now he can't enjoy Ruth's Chris Steakhouse's Surf and Turf 2-for-1 Fridays!
Steak 48 isn't your average steakhouse chain. It may be named after the 48th state of Arizona, but its flagship location actually debuted in Houston, Texas in 2016. It's since steadily expanded to 6 locations throughout the U.S., as there are plenty of people who love fresh steak and are willing to pay for it. Steak 48 is a venture of brothers Jeffrey and Michael Mastro, who first got a taste of the business through their father, Dennis. They've carried on the family's culinary legacy with exceptional steak that's never frozen. Wagyu beef tartare with deviled egg mousse is on the appetizer list, and a slew of prime steaks and chops fill up the rest of the menu. They're all responsibly farmed, wet-aged for 28 days or dry-aged for 45 days, and butchered in-house. Whatever steak you choose, it will be fresh USDA prime beef prepared with care. The piles of shell-on peanuts served at Texas Roadhouse may feel like a gimmick, but picking your favorite cut from the showcase near the entrance is most certainly not. All Texas Roadhouse locations employ an in-house butcher to hand-cut their steak inside 34-degree coolers. Each facility cuts more than $1 million worth of meat each year. Texas Roadhouse first opened in 1993 in Clarksville, Indiana, and they've never strayed from their signature cowboy theme. There are now more than 600 locations in the U.S. and 10 other countries. Using USDA choice beef allows them to sell their steaks at lower prices than the competition. The atmosphere and menu keep it casual, as each steak comes with sides included, unlike fine dining steakhouses where an a la carte menu is the standard. It's clearly working. In 2021, Texas Roadhouse smashed the competition in annual U.S. sales, topping the list at $3.72 billion. Morton's The Steakhouse has made quality steak the centerpiece of its brands. Despite less than 2% of American beef earning the top-tier grade of USDA Prime, that's the only kind of beef that makes it into Morton's kitchens. It always arrives fresh at their 60-plus locations, and it stays that way. They age their steaks between 23 and 28 days, and they're cut by professional butchers according to Morton's custom specifications. The public was first introduced to Morton's in 1978, when the original location opened in downtown Chicago. Good food, a bustling bar, and unparalleled service helped the elegant steakhouse eventually set up shop in other large cities, like New York and Los Angeles. Morton struggled to keep all of its locations open amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and has had a few wobbles in the public image department, but it still makes never-frozen steak a priority. It may be a relatively new kid on the block, at least in the US, but the Brazilian-themed all-you-can-eat steakhouse Fogo de Chão is gaining ground, and fresh steak is always on their menu in abundance. Fogo de Chão was one of the first to introduce Americans to the art of churrasco, which involves skewering large cuts of steak and grilling them over an open flame. This chain's steaks are hand-cut and cooked by fire in front of guests, before being carved tableside. Fogo de Chão's roots lie in the south of Brazil, where the Cosair brothers bought the business and set out to perfect the churrascaria experience and take it beyond their native land. By 1997, the chain had opened its first stateside restaurant in Dallas, Texas. The goal was to add a fine dining flair to the typical no-frills serving style of traditional Brazilian churrascarias. Americans have really caught on. In the US, Fogo de Chão has expanded to around 60 locations and proudly uses 100% US beef aged within in-house meat lockers.
Not here to make decisions. You're here to make discoveries.
Having amassed well over 100 locations since its founding in 1991, Logan's Roadhouse sticks to a laid-back atmosphere and a varied menu without resorting to frozen steak. Instead, they're cut from fresh, corn-fed USDA choice beef. Logan's also ages and cuts all of its steaks in-house and fires them over a mesquite wood grill, giving the meat a distinctly southern flavor. Those wood-grilled steaks and their fresh yeast rolls are the highlights of the Logan's Roadhouse experience, although much of the menu consists of items you could get at other chains. In 2020, Logan's was acquired by the Fortress Investment Group, which resulted in some higher prices. Although that increase may tempt some potential customers to have dinner with the competition, Logan's is staying true to its culinary practices, which means keeping the steak and yeast rolls fresh. If you want to wear fancy clothes and eat in a multi-floored setting reminiscent of the dining room from Titanic, then Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse is calling your name. Seafood gets due recognition on the menu, but if you're in it for the steak, you can trust that it's never seen the inside of a freezer. Del Frisco's uses aged, corn-fed USDA prime beef that's hand-cut after you place your order. Dry-age enthusiasts will be pleased to know that Del Frisco's commits to a 45-day aging process for its prime strip and prime ribeye cuts, and they're not shy about touting the taste of luxury. Menus vary slightly by location, but there's always a section dedicated to Wagyu beef sourced from Japanese cattle breeds with an exquisitely marbled meat-to-fat ratio. At the Del Frisco's in Manhattan, Kobe beef is also offered. This is an ultra-exclusive form of Wagyu that hails directly from the Kobe region of central Japan, where the mountains meet the sea. A 3-ounce portion of Kobe at Del Frisco's will set you back $120 compared to $93 for standard Wagyu of the same size, and you can rest assured it'll be fresh. According to Black Angus Steakhouse, it takes about 60 years to cook the perfect steak. They're not referring to the wait time for their tables, but rather the rich West Coast ranching heritage and their decades-long quest to perfect ranch-to-table cuisine. Black Angus founder Stuart Anderson opened the flagship location in 1964 in Seattle and lured customers in with the promise of steak, super salad, and a baked potato for just $2.99.
I'm Stuart Anderson. For a great steak at a great price, ranching experience gives my Black Angus restaurant the edge. It's a steak worth going for.
Black Angus Steakhouse really hits a certain middle-of-the-road dining niche. It's a bit pricier than casual chains like Texas Roadhouse, but more down-to-earth than joints like Morton's. It carries a selection of USDA choice beef hand-cut in-house from Angus cattle, naturally enough. The steaks are aged for 21 days and flame-grilled, just like they do it on the ranch. Alpine Steakhouse may not be a chain operation, but this one-of-a-kind eatery out of Sarasota, Florida keeps things fresh by combining its restaurant with a butcher shop and specialty grocery store. Since 1975, the family-run facility has brought freshness to the table in unrivaled fashion. As their website states, virtually nothing comes out of a box or shrink-wrapped. Never frozen, USDA prime and dry-aged steaks are here for the taking, alongside other fresh-made, unique meat products, including a turducken.
It might be one of the best-looking, uncooked, food items I've ever. I mean, it's just beautiful.
All of the traditional cuts are accounted for at Alpine's butcher shop, even Wagyu. It's tough to argue with their dedication to butchery and their unique take on the steakhouse experience. For the majority of the last decade, Sarasota Magazine has even crowned Alpine as the best restaurant to get steak in the city, and we're certainly convinced. Dry aging steak is a labor of love. In order to make the most of this classic technique, a steakhouse needs time, space, and a lot of beef. Smith & Wollensky knows a thing or two about dry aging, and it shows. The restaurant was founded in 1977, and it's since cemented its reputation as one of the best steakhouses in New York City. It was declared by a 1997 New York Times review as the steakhouse to end all arguments, and has steadily expanded throughout the nation and the world since then. The menu and food presentation are refined and harken back to an earlier time without feeling overly dated. Smith & Wollensky is proof that making exquisite, fresh steak and delivering customer service at the highest level are essential keys to success. They're known for dry aging 7 to 12 tons of beef at once, but that's not even the most impressive part of the process. They procure their meat from their very own ranch called Snake River Falls in Caldwell, Idaho, to ensure that sustainability and quality are prioritized every step of the way.